Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures Daily Dose of Nature. I am your host, Brooke Mitchell. And today's webinar is Elevated Harmony, Exploring Life in the High Himalayas with Expedition Leader Phalgun Patel. Thank you so much for being here today, Phalgun. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Brooke. Hi, everyone. I'm Falgun, and Brooke actually got my name right. That was amazing. So welcome. I'm right now in India. I'm sitting in a rainforest, and there's a few elephants outside. It's 1:30 a.m. in the morning. So I'm going to be in, uh, and welcome. So right now, what we're going to do is I've been leading expeditions across Ladakh for the last 4 years now. Prior to that, I was doing a lot of uh, I was I was guiding all across central India, doing different cats, and right now Western Ghats, which is the rainforest, is home to me. But welcome to NatHab webinars, and let's move ahead. So a photo on the left is one of my favorite sightings ever of a snow leopard, but we'll come into the more exciting part later. So that's me. That's me on field. That's the big guns that you'll need to carry if you're going to look for a snow leopard. And goes to almost about minus 25 degrees Celsius, so pretty cold. So now we'll go into the history of India itself. We'll go into the history of how the Himalayas came into existence. The Indian landmass, all the way here, if you see to the left of your screen, uh, came in about 71 million years ago and collided into the Eurasian plate on top. So now what we see, the L almost came in slowly over time, moving at just about 16 to 5 centimeters a year. And that's how the Himalayas were formed. The top is basically the Tibetan plateau, that's in the Eurasian plate, and the bottom was called as the India landmass. So now it still moves till date. I'm sure a lot of you know that the Himalayas is increasing in size. The easiest way is everybody talks about the Mount Everest increasing in height every year. So this just shows that India is still moving into the Eurasian plate. So now we'll move a little closer into it. The little red dot is one of the best places in the whole world to see snow leopards. But before we see snow leopards, let's learn a little bit about the land. There's a place called Ladakh, India's Trans-Himalayas. Was When the British were in India in the 1900s, they started exploring the land of Ladakh, and it's one of the most, I'd say, the most beautiful places in the world. Extremely harsh, a cold desert, high altitude starting at about 3,000 meters, going all the way up to about 7,000 meters. So now the Trans Himalayas is basically a mixture of granite and volcanic rocks. Now, when we go back a slide, so when the landmass came and collided with the Eurasian plate on top, a lot of metamorphic rocks, which are there in this region of Ladakh, the top region, started going upwards, while the lower part of India, which is mostly igneous and volcanic, started going underneath. So even today, when we go up to the Himalayas, you'll see there used to be a huge ocean around here. I hope you can see my mouse moving on the screen. So that ocean was called the Tethys Ocean, or the Tibetan Ocean, as the locals call it now. So you see a lot of fossils from under the ocean in this whole region. It's a pretty cool sight when you actually come into sight. So moving on, this region is one of my most favorite regions. This photo was taken by me a few years ago, probably my first season. This river here is called the Indus River. It's a life-giving river to India, and for over centuries. Now, this side is the Eurasian plate on the right side. And you'll see glacial moraines at the edge of the water. Now, this is actually really large. That height would be more than about 60 to 70 feet tall. Now, this side was the Indian landmass. So this is mostly sedimentary and metamorphic rocks, and this is igneous. Now, moving, this consists of 5 distinct habitats. Moving to the mountains. Mountains are always beautiful. They look like the Alps. The Himalayas is one of the largest and the highest mountain range in the world. The Changtang Plateau. This is basically very close to the Chinese border from the Indian side. A really high altitude plateau, and I'm sure all of you have heard of something called as the Pashmina shawls. So this region is where the Pashmina goats graze, and the nomadic herders live around here. We'll come back into that. You'll see some photographs of that in a few later slides. Another part is the high altitude lakes and wetlands. In the summer, it's a haven for birders. That there's a blackneck stork, a lot of water birds around, but summer is a time when you have a lot of Indian tourists, a lot of tourists from around the world coming into this land of Ladakh. So it is a little crowded, but an amazing place for birding. We operate in this region where the land looks like this. So going back into another, the valleys of Indus. Indus is a river and Shyok is a tributary of the Indus. Now Shyok comes near a place called the Nubra Valley, which looks like this on the right side. You can all see the desert sand dunes. It's one of the highest desert dunes in the world. It's located at about 4,000 to 5,000 meters above sea level. Now going back, the river called Shyok in local language in Ladakhi means the river of death. During the time of the Silk Route, when a lot of travelers used to come in from China into India, this route used to flood quite a bit. Flash floods took out a lot of humans, and hence the name Shayok. But reminiscence is you see the camel on the bottom of your screen. That's called the Bactrian camel or the Mongolian camel. It came into India from Mongolia during the Silk Route trade. And they're pretty cool camels, but there's only about 950 left in the wild somewhere in Mongolia, but more than over 2 million domesticated camels in the world. So some people are lucky when they do go to Nubra off the snow leopard tour. We do get to see these camels. Now, desert scrub on the left, this is most of our vegetation that you see in the mountains. Going ahead, Ladakh is one place which looks like this. It looks quite beautiful, doesn't it? That is the scale of the mountains and extremely low population. The reason being, humans, when we see land, we want to build everywhere. In a place like this, when it's so inhospitable, you can't really build. And probably the best guys who built a lot of structures here were the Tibetans. They built the one on the right, the white building, is actually a palace. It was built more than about 3,000 years ago. This is the present little town, and the city of Leh goes beyond this, where my mouse goes away. That's where it is. But imagine the scale of just sitting around here, and all these mountains look quite bare. But we'll come back to why it looks like that. Yes, don't you think it looks lifeless? When you actually take a glance, humans, I'm from the plains, and normally when I go into Leh every year for the first time of the season, it takes me a day or two to adjust. Everything looks like this. Even if there's something walking around, your eyes will take a few days to probably adjust. But yes, when we look closer, we have scopes and we have binoculars, and we look closer. This is what we'll probably see. Now, survival of the fittest, I think, was coined here because it's so harsh and animals live here. It's just unbelievable. That's an ibex, a silhouette of an ibex crossing over, a nice big goatee, if you can see. Yeah, I don't know what these are. Maybe the snow leopards. I'm kidding. They're snow leopards and two cubs right on top of a mountain. And humans. Nothing in the world is possible without humans. The story of coexistence between humans and animals is seen around the world, but in Ladakh is just quite unbelievable. Also, because uh, we'll come back into that. I'm sorry, but we'll quickly go in to what India was before. Now, if we look on the top, that is an old map which is made. It's out there, which is which has a lot of names which you might not recognize other than Tibet and Himalaya. These are all old names, Ladakhi names, Chinese names on the right. But what you see here, something called as Kashi or Sachet over here. So this is the region of Ladakh. Now, when we have on day two of our snow leopard tour, whenever we're doing this, we go into this region and you'll see old reminiscence of the Silk Trade route, where people, it actually looks like this. This is a painting at the bottom, but you see the river flowing through, so you'll see the river Indus going through. Uh, People would put up meats, shawls, beads from around, precious stones, a lot of things coming in from this side, the Mediterranean side, would come in here in exchange for salt from India, salt and spices. Uh, I'm sure you saw the spices right down here. And the camels came in through. So the camels came in from almost towards the Altai Mountains, that's above near Mongolia. When they came in, some of the camels were left back, and Indians at that point of time started domesticating them, and they never went wild. Now, moving on from here, this is one of my most favorite photographs. It was taken by a friend of mine. Uh, in Whoever comes to Ladakh, we go into the monastery on day one. So this is a Stakna monastery built by the Tibetans more than about 600 years ago. Now look at them. Look at how they build on a mountain. It's just basically an extension of the mountain itself. It's endured harsh weathers. It's endured snowfall, minus 50 degrees Celsius, hot summers, but still it stands. Now this photograph, just remember this photograph, you see all the colors in the sky, you see the greens around. This is the time of spring. This is between July and August. July, August and September looks like this in Ladakh. And the stark difference when we go into the next photograph, look onto your top left. That's the same monastery but in winters. This is when we visit Ladakh. You have the long poplars, which is golden, shining because of the sun. They're all dry. The shrubs at the bottom, they're mostly sea buckthorn shrubs, and the Indus River slowly freezing over. Now, if you come on to your left, this is what, remember we're talking about the desert land, the Changtang Plateau, where the Pashmina shawls are made. That's a nomadic herder. They've been doing it for centuries now. That's their tent at the back. This is basically what their day would look like out in the field. People like, and that's the Pashmina goat. That's where you get the world's most expensive wool. And it's so warm. Trust me, it's as thin as my t-shirt, but it'll keep you really warm. Really, really warm at even -5 centigrade. Now, their daily life looks like this. They leave home. Probably their home would have been somewhere near this town. This is almost 500 kilometers. The Changtang Plateau is 500 kilometers off. And when they go out herding, they come back after maybe 3 months. They sometimes come back a year later. So they're really hardcore people. They endure weather. They know how to cook out in the field. Uh, they're probably the perfect humans. They don't litter. Now, when we move to your right, it's a stark difference, and you'll see the culture. I'm sure you know, guys on top, little kids starting to be monks in a monastery with the whole Himalayas at the back. So the Tibetan culture came in to Ladakh long before India was a country by itself. Basically, when India was kingdoms. Now, Tibetan culture has come in into India, and Ladakh is one of the most their strongholds. So you'll see a lot of monasteries, you'll see a lot of monks. These kids are always quite cute. One of our trips, this is just off topic, but one of our trips when we were here, one of our guests went in to see a monk actually trying. He had a book this way, and he was reading inside the temple. And she was so engrossed. She was like, "Wow, this looks so cute!" And she went to take photographs, but when she went closer, she saw behind the book was a little telephone and he was going through his phone. Kids will be kids. But coming back, culture is really strong around here. This is a temple festival which happens. Basically, it's a monastery festival which happens once in 2 years. It happened continuously until COVID, and for 4 years they were off. This photograph was taken last season by one of our guests. A beautiful, a beautiful dance performance. There'd be hundreds and thousands of people. but much less than the population that you see in the rest of the country. And you hear a lot of drums, you hear a lot of bells, winds, beautiful looking dresses, a lot of motifs on their head, or they have a lot of these kinds of dragons and scary looking faces, uh, prints everywhere. And if you go down all the way, you'll notice the thick blue beads on her head and around her neck. That is local Ladakhi jewelry, which probably came in during the Silk Trade route because Himalayas does have a lot of minerals, but a lot of bead culture came in apparently from Italy long, long ago. So over time, that has become the local tradition for Ladakhis. What you see is a traditional dress wear. We'll move into the next one, and it's a very old photograph, probably taken by maybe a British person in 1900s. These actually, again, these are probably blue beads, but this is what they looked like earlier. And today we have a very famous designer in India called Rohit Bal, and a few more designers like that. 2024 Lakme Fashion Week or your fashion weeks have Ladakhi culture out there, and this is what it looks like today. So humans change through time, but traditions remain. Looks cooler, it's lighter. Today's generation can wear it. So I'd say you heard quite a bit of history about uh, the Buddhists and the locals, but I think when tradition becomes cooler to wear, it will go on. Today's age and today's generations, millennials and Gen Zs, whoever is there, traditions go away. That becomes a side. You want to do, you want to work, you want to go out, you want to travel, but people forget their roots. And I think in Ladakh, you'll see a completely different side of them. Even the youngest generations hold on to their traditions. But why I love Ladakh is uh, you still have proof of humans from 5,000 years ago, and this is part of our tours when we do a photo pro trip in Ladakh. We take you to these locations. These are the photographs on the top. Two of them have been taken by one of our guests. We do go. It's beautiful, crystal clear Indus River. At the back, you have rocks which have been preserved till date by the government of Ladakh itself, and you see a lot of petroglyphs. So this, whenever you see dots, and I know it doesn't seem like anything, but this is a snow leopard. Believe me, I'm not lying. These are stupas. So when you have things like this shows that it's a little newer. It's much newer than the petroglyphs on top, because this shows the coming of religion. So this is probably dates back to about 2,000, 3,000 years old. But whereas the ones on top are about 5,000 years old, this is something called as an Arigali ram, which is very hard to see. But imagine 5,000 years ago they did see it. On the right, I put in a picture of a real ibex versus a petroglyph ibex. They look pretty similar. You'll notice the goatee on both of them, the really long horns on both sides. So it's pretty cool to see our ancestors left proof for us, and we're lucky today to still seeing the same animals. Now let's go into something more interesting. What do you think this is? The Yeti? We've had a few guests try to look for the Yeti. We really, really try hard, but you know what we see. I'm going to leave this page on for about a minute. This is normally what we do while we're in field. We take out our binoculars or our scopes, and we're out there in the mountains, maybe 100 meters away, sometimes 800 meters away, and we're looking for something like this. There's a snow leopard to your 2 o'clock of flame. I'm guessing all of you saw it. You guys are pretty cool. But trust me, in the field, it does get really hard, and it takes me a day to adjust. So I can imagine everybody else. Now, before we go into really cooler photographs of snow leopard, NatHab and WWF work together, and they've been working together forever. Now, with all of this, you don't have to read any of this. Basically, in the world, this is where snow leopards are found. There's about 12 places in the world, including India, Nepal, Mongolia, China, and Russia, to name, uh, where snow leopards are quite popular. Now, Nepal has the highest number of snow leopards, but it's still quite inaccessible because some of the mountains are not hospitable enough. India is still one of the best places in the world to see a snow leopard because we have good tourism for snow leopards. We have good lodges, great trackers. David Attenborough comes to where we are and shoots. He uses our guides. He uses our spotters and trackers. So you'd be in really good hands if you come. And I'm supposed to have good cat luck, and I have quite a few tattoos of cats all around. Uh, Hope to show at least one of you a snow leopard one day in my life. But Pakistan, on the other hand, is beautiful, beautiful landscape for snow leopards. Unfortunately, countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, all these stans here, that's Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, they have great habitat for snow leopard, but extremely hard for tourism because they're in a state of unrest most of the time. Uh, Now, overall, in terms of research, you'll see 66%, that's most amount of research has been done based on the ecological research, that is distribution of how many animals are there, their prey species. Now you find the number of prey, you do an average of how many snow leopards could be there. If you notice, conservation technology is only 1%. That means snow leopards are one of the few cats which have been radio collared or tagged the least. And also another thing is it's quite risky to, you know, tranquilize a snow leopard, put a collar on them. So even researchers, they really can't judge their weight from a far distance. The snow leopards are very hard to capture. So they're normally observed by spotters. They're normally observed through tracks, and most of the time we have a lot of researching NGOs here, like Wildlife Trust of India, Snow Leopard Conservancy. These guys do a lot of good work all around this area. There's also, so from say about 5 years ago, snow leopards were still critically endangered. Now they've come into an endangered species, and they're off the red list. That's probably because we've been studying more snow leopards. We have more manpower, we have more tourism. So more people see snow leopard means you're going to save more snow leopards. Hopefully, they remain for the rest of our lives. It's a beautiful, beautiful cat. Going down, this is one of my favorite photographs. We were really lucky. There's a young female. We were all going to see a cat called the Palace's cat in the Changtang area, which is the high plateaus near China. And on the way, one of my really close friend and colleague from NatHab, Surya, stopped the car and shouted, "There's a blue sheep across the road. There's a whole herd of blue sheep drinking water." And we did. We all jumped out of the car, and we're always excited, no matter if it's a snow leopard, if it's an ibex, if it's a blue sheep, and they're all looking at the blue sheep. They're all drinking water, and suddenly, out of the blue, this snow leopard just runs down towards the herd, tries to catch one of the blue sheep, fails miserably because she's probably very young, and she lost all her energy. Now the blue sheep were alerted, ran away. She was tired, and look what she did after. She walked. That's the river Indus at the bottom. It's icy blue. There's snow behind. That's the granite walls behind with a lot of lichen on them. She just walked on the ice, looking. She was probably looking at one of my friends on the left. As we moved, as we followed her, we sat with her for about 6 hours. She was just at a distance of, it's probably the closest snow leopard sighting a person can have. After working 10 years in the wild, 4 years in Ladakh looking for snow leopards, this was about my only sighting, which I had 5 meters away. We've had about 20 meters away. That's still close, but 5 meters, you can imagine. So these were the shots that she gave us through the whole series. I call it fire and ice because normally we always see snow leopards white on white snow. But look at this. There's a lot of golden grass. This is sea buckthorn. The orange matches her coat. And she walks majestically on the whole boulders on the river Indus. We were trying to play hide and seek with her. saw walking through ice at one point, and when she walks in front of grass with her coat, she disappears. Sometimes it gets hard to see her just though she's so close to you. At the end, what they do is they never. Now I'm going to go back a little bit. Right now, if you notice, she's near the river. Snow leopards, just as behavior itself, they do not like to stay at the bottom for very long. When they're crossing valleys, they come in for a sip of water or they come in for a hunt and they have to go back up. They're really scared to stay at the bottom. Plus, the element of surprise is spoiled. So immediately after this, she walked up. She walked up all the way. She found a little nice spot, yawned on the left, and passed out. She looked for a little bit and passed out forever. She probably passed out. She was sleeping till the next day. We finally left her and continued. It was a great sighting, and I hope a lot of people would have seen it, but I'm very happy about this sighting. Now, coming into what they feed on, these are some photographs from a few friends. None of the photographs here are mine. So, the one on top is a snow leopard eating a blue sheep. Unlike a regular leopard, that's your Indian leopard or your African leopard, when they do hunt, they will bite the throat first. Yes, they kill by asphyxiation. This is what the snow leopard does too. But a leopard would eat from the belly, and a big cat like a tiger would eat from the rump. Snow leopards have no rules. They'll eat whatever is easy to open, because they're also very opportunistic. There are wolves in the area, there's stray dogs nowadays in the area, there's other leopards in the area. The more time you take to eat, maybe you're going to lose your meal. So extremely opportunistic cats, very smart cats. This is a big male snow leopard going in to get his ibex. So an ibex like this, either at the bottom or here, would last this leopard almost about a week or 10 days. And that's quite a bit of food for a leopard like that. And post that, this leopard wouldn't eat at all for the next 10 or 15 days. So almost for a month, I just on an average for a month, a meal this size is good for a cat like this. But if it's a blue sheep, the snow leopard would have to kill probably every week. Now what you see here is a wild yak which has been killed by a snow leopard, but it's a calf of a wild yak. Now the wild yak is so huge, it's half the size of the American bison, and even a fully grown adult snow leopard can't kill it. So they always go in for younger ones. And look at this. This was a photo taken last year with a whole set of NatHab guests. I put in this photograph because it's quite interesting. I want to show you a snow leopard here, along with an ibex kill, guarding it so well from a feral dog. This is what is happening around the world now. Feral dogs are there. Feral dogs basically tell you we have human settlements close by. That means humans are moving closer and closer. The problem in Ladakh is not human settlements, unfortunately, because you've seen how sparsely populated it is. Ladakh is also a front area. So you have the army and the air force based there completely because we have China on one side and Pakistan on the other. So where army is, they have multiple camps, and where there are campsites, there's food, and where there's food, these guys, dogs come, they breed, and now they take over mountains. We've seen dogs attack ibexes. We've seen dogs chase away wolf packs, and we've seen dogs try and harass snow leopards. At the end of the day, this season, I don't know if we have footage of this. Maybe Dushyant does, one of our senior guides. One dog like this was irritating a snow leopard. Basically, we had snow leopard here, a dog irritating it. We were right down at the bottom. The snow leopard got so angry, so furious, turned, came down in one swift shot, caught the dog, killed it, left it, went back to feed. So that's how pissed it is. It's an opportunistic animal at the end. It'll probably eat the dog as well. But this goes to say that there is a lot of conflict going around in these areas, and population is trouble. Now we go in to what the snow leopards do. Snow leopards have, it's probably one of the only big cats in the world which haven't claimed a man's life. So there are no man-eating snow leopards. They're quite short. They're about 2 feet in height, 7 feet long. And when I say 7 feet long, you see the back of this tail. We'll just go back and yeah, sorry. I hope you can see my screen. And on the left, the back, the tail itself will measure about 3 feet. It's a really long tail, which it hugs its body, and it's really cold. And the body will be about 3 to 4 feet. So it's quite a small cat. But now, what the snow leopard does is, when there's lack of food or there's fights, there's territorial fights with other males or females, snow leopards now get really hungry. So what they used to do earlier was they would jump into sheep straight up like this, and they would go on a killing spree. The maximum number of sheep recorded to be killed was almost about 65 sheep in a night. One night, the snow leopard went into the pen. It was now trapped inside the pen, just killed all the sheep. This on the left gives you an example of that. This on the right also shows you that it's sitting right next to all the sheep it's killed. Now it goes on a killing spree that way, but it doesn't eat all of them. It only eats one. So now what used to happen is because of this, villagers would, and it's human tendency, you get angry. So villagers would beat the snow leopard to death. They would do it with snow leopards, with wolves, anything which did this. So now what organizations like Snow Leopard Conservancy or Snow Leopard Trust does is they made a simple mechanism of putting fences on top of their pen. Now, when you have fences on top, the snow leopard can't get in, the sheep can't get out. Everybody's safe, everybody's happy. Such a simple technique, isn't it? So things like this, small things like this, will help you safeguard our snow leopards, and it'll also get the people to be more. Now the people will start seeing this as what they need to do, and it will be passed down generations. So hence, saving an animal. Now, moving on from our snow leopards, these are one of my favorite animals too in the mountains. Wolves, the cousins of gray wolves, all the way back in your country in America. These are called the Himalayan wolves or the Tibetan wolves. I call them the long-ranging drifters of the mountains because they walk kilometers in search of food. They walk miles in search of food. One whole wolf pack has been known to travel almost about 40-45 kilometers in search of food and territory. And places like Ladakh, food is low, food is scarce, land is vast. So now in this, you'll see about 5 wolves standing all apart. You'll see one little magpie on the left. Magpies are scavengers. They call the Himalayan magpies. They're scavenger birds, and they're always following a predator because where there's a predator, there could be a kill. Now, these are 3 different kinds of wolves in the world. This is basically uh, just a bifurcation for us to understand easier. The whole of India has something called as the Indian wolf, which is really thin. It's as thin as a Malinois or a German Shepherd. The Tibetan wolf is quite large, quite furry because of the habitat it stays in. It stays in really cold, harsh temperatures. Now, the world's largest wolf is the Holo-Arctic wolf, which translates into the grey wolf and the wolves in Russia, North America, uh, and now these are the largest species of wolves. So the Tibetan and the Indian wolf do have bloodlines of the Holo-Arctic wolf. Now we'll come in to the Tibetan wolves. This is what they would look like. Now the photo on top is in peak winters. The animal you see at the back is a whole herd of something called as the Kiangs, or call them the Tibetan wild ass. That's the name. It's called the Tibetan wild ass. Now, wolves in a pack would take down something like that, and it would probably finish it in a day because a pack of wolves can devour an animal within a day. Now, one out of about 10 different, say, packs, one of them may be a black wolf. So, black wolf is um, quite a scarcity here, and it does end up becoming alpha of the pack. The picture on the right is my photograph on the right, and that's the summer coat of the wolf. Much thinner coat, more blacks, more prominent blacks, but if you see the same coat in the winter, it's more whitish. Now this, perfect. Sorry, my screen was zoomed in. So this is a mother and pup. We had this 2 years ago with our Natab guests, right outside our lodge. We woke up in the morning, we were having coffee, and our spotter said, Shanku, Shanku, and Shanku in local language, Shanku, which is spelled Shanku. Shanku in local language means wolves. And these wolves had actually killed our neighbor's cattle. So now what we did out of the neighbor just lost his young cow, which was probably just about 2 months old. What we did is so that the local villagers don't chase this wolf away, and by the time the government comes in and gives a compensation, they need proof of the body, and by the time the department comes in, there's no evidence left anymore. And these locals don't. They have phones which have no cameras in them. So what we normally do is if something like this happens, we offer some money to the local, so the local doesn't end up killing the wolf, shooting the wolf, none of that. So then what happens is they somehow indirectly work for tourism. So now this was just a day old and they've almost finished the meat. This is another, these are much larger wolves taken in a place called Nubra. Nubra is the desert areas. Now again, this is what they look like when they're feeding. Much smaller than the grey wolves, but as ferocious as the grey wolves. Now this is what is quite interesting. Wolves somehow in India had, they had a very bad name because they were considered bad luck. So a lot of people, what they did was, and wolves would always come for cattle, they would always come for livestock. So people made something called as shandongs or wolf traps. So this is what a wolf trap would look like. It is ideally open a little bit from one side, and it's quite a deep wall on the inside. Now inside you'll see some bones, and this is probably very old bones and some debris. Uh, so the wolves would go in. They would bait the wolf back to go inside. All the wolves would go in. Now the villagers would come. They would all stand around this on top and pelt stones on the wolves, use sticks and kill all the wolves. This went on for more than 100 years. Now the people of this region are Buddhists, and Buddhists believe in karma for animals. Buddhists believe in compassion for animals, and they believe in reincarnation. So, what they believe in reincarnation is when a human dies, he's reincarnated back to the earth as an animal. So, they actually came up with a plan even before Nature Conservation Foundation or Snow Leopard Conservancy came up with a plan. They started banning these wolf traps. So now that's the stupa. Once a stupa is built and you have the prayer flags around on both sides, you'll see it. That means it's a closure of a wolf trap. Now, Buddhists consider stupas to be extremely pious, extremely religious, and bringing them a lot of good luck and good wishes. And prayer flags, all the prayer flags carry good wishes from one side to another, a good prayers. So now I think that is a pretty cool thing to do. So religion here helped, but the locals and the local governing bodies also do this. They go and dismantle them, and now it's completely against the law to kill wolves. It's completely against the law to build a contraption like this. But humans are quite mean, aren't we? But yeah, survival of the fittest. Now we go into these guys. Sure, you've heard of the ibex. It's probably the best mountaineer. Uh, and the first person climbed Mount Everest, the whole world went, wow. Imagine these guys have been doing it for centuries. They have hooves just about. This is an iPhone charger. The hooves are just about that much, and believe it or not, easier. This is universal. It's an iPhone. It's an iPhone. If it's an iPhone Mini, so it's quite a small thing. There'll be a ledge this small on the side of the mountain. The ibex will be standing on it, and it'll actually be jumping from one place to another. So when you see an ibex that way, you just won't believe your eyes. And this is a 150 kilo animal walking up the mountain. That's that. is a stark difference between a male, which has a nice white silver saddle. So locally, here we call them the saddlebacks, just like gorillas in Africa, and that's a female. Please notice the size difference. It's 2 times the size. And they're normally on the mountain goats, basically. So they're always on mountains. They hardly come down. They also get their water by feeding on ice, just like how the snow leopard gets its water most of the time. They feed on ice if there's ice on top. But when there's nothing, like if there's landscape this way, they will go down to the water. But they're very scared, just like all prey species. Ibex is really scared when they come down towards the water. Now, slowly we'll have a look at this slide. Right here, it's a whole bunch of males. So we call them the bachelor herd. You notice all their silverbacks. It's just like it's just black and white, beautiful. Now this is a herd which are all now starting to get ready for the rut season and go and impress a female, go and woo a female. A lot of work. Males always have a lot of work. Here you'll see a mixed bunch, basically a mixed herd of male and female. Now you see, notice what they're all doing on the slides, the diagonal slides, the one at the bottom where the mouse is pointed. So what they do is with their feet, they take off the snow and they look for dormant shrubs or seeds which are under the snow. An animal which grows this size feeds on shrubs which are only that much in the whole of the mountain. So the mountain actually looks bare, but they do have small little bush, high of proteins, a lot of grass seeds, and yes, they are the largest mountain goat species in the world. You have ibexes here, you have ibexes in Siberia as well, but this is called the alpine or the Himalayan ibex. Now moving on to where the ibex stays and what they do and what they eat. Now, number one is salt marshes. The most important zones. Almost all animals, every animal requires salt, so they do come into these areas because it also has sweet water with salt all around. Now these and they look like the one number two looks like a wolf trap, but it's basically stones with a lot of bush around, a lot of cover. Ibexes during the summer months would come down and rest in places like this if they're ever at the bottom of the valley. Otherwise, they're mostly on top. Now, this is also basically the kind of landscape that we have in the whole of Ladakh. So you have shrubs, you have steppes all around. This is probably it's something called a scree slope. I'm sure all of you know what a scree slope is. It's basically you lose rocks uh, just holding on by the mountain. So if you try climbing these mountains, it's like an elevator which is going the opposite direction and just going to keep walking. You walk on the same place. It's extremely slippery, but ibexes use this to escape from snow leopards sometimes. They just run through it. They have such great grip. They go through these three slopes, and the snow leopard will get left behind. One of my most favorite plant in this region is the juniper. You'll see juniper shrubs growing on really, really steep slopes, and following that is where the ibex come and they'll be feeding off it. So it's quite a funny thing to see the ibexes feed. They'll be doing gymnastics while feeding. Now, a quick range of where the Asiatic ibex, the alpine ibex, or the Himalayan ibex, they are called by many names. Is if you see the map on the left, it's the topmost region of India, it goes from Uttarakhand, that's your Manali and Shimla, closer to Delhi, all the way up to Ladakh, goes into Tibet, and goes into parts of China and Mongolia. So this is their range. Uh, this slide is going to be there, but basically, what they are is they're about that tall, I'd say about 4 feet in height. Uh, uh, 4 feet in height on their by their heads. That's the males. Females is just about 2.5 feet tall. Now you see this little picture or the right here where I'm circling. This is how they would stand. Even a snow leopard doesn't have the same amount of grip that the ibex has. But the ibex is one of the most preferred prey for the snow leopard because it can feed quite a while, and there's more than about 10,000 uh, ibexes in India. Animals like this are not really counted properly, and they say 10,000 could be 15,000, could be lesser. But an interesting animal nonetheless. Now we go in something called as we heard of sea buckthorn. Not sure how many of you have, but it's one variety of sea buckthorn called the Himalayan sea buckthorn, called the holy fruit of the mountain, because the Tibetans learned how to use it. It was exchanged during the Silk Trade route time because it's high in vitamin C, a lot of antioxidants, human uses. I'm only talking about human uses right now. We'll go into the wildlife aspect of it. It's extremely citrus. The fruit looks like this. On the left, the tiny little orange berries all along the stem of the whole shrub. They're extremely soft, so if you try to touch them, they just pop open. They're almost like fish eggs. They just pop. Now, another thing why humans really can't, you can't catch it and you can't stick it and put it in your mouth is because these thorns are so strong they pierce a hole through your fingers. And in the cold, you don't feel pain. When you come back into your rooms in really nice warm rooms, you're going to feel all the thorn pains. But nonetheless, locals here do collect sea buckthorn very organically. They make sea buckthorn oils and fruits and juices and feed us whenever we have craving for this. But see what they hold. So this is what sea buckthorn plateaus look like. They're just almost like vast lands just filled with sea buckthorn bush, and they hold some of the most beautiful birds. The golden stars, it's the red start, quite the most common bird around here in this region. The blue throat. This blue is supposed to be the rarest color or the most the lesser occurring color in nature. The blue throat looks beautiful in a stark place like this. I'm going to come back to this bird here, the tip warbler. The robin accenters, rufous-tailed rock thrushes, and the common rose finches, all of them feed off this plant. So this plant holds quite a bit of life. Now this is my favorite bird. Trust me, it's my favorite bird. It's Surya's favorite bird. A few of us who work in Snow Leopard Lodge and with NatHab, we love this bird. And no guesses why. Just look at that bird. It's this tiny. It's a tip warbler. Yes, definitely. When you see it in shaded regions, when you see it in shade, you see more of a brownish blue kind of a bird. You really don't see the color. The minute it comes out into a little gleam of sunlight, you just see all these colors. They have more than 7 colors. It's almost like a rainbow. A cute little bird. It's called a white-browed tip warbler. Birders are old birders when they were naming. This bird had more colors than white, I'm guessing, but they still managed to call it a white-browed tip warbler. Only birders will understand. But other than that, this also holds a few butterflies in the summer. Sea buckthorn also has, in its flowers, you have the green underwings, the clouded yellow, and the Apollo butterflies which come in. The green underwing is a beautiful little butterfly. It's almost like a rice rip, but it's tiny. It's just about that much. Bumblebees come out. We always see bumblebees come out from their hibernation in the month of April when snow leopard season is just shutting off. And that's the time everything is melting, and you'll just see these bumblebees come out. They'll be shaking off. They'll be flying like they're a little drunk, popping onto rocks, falling off, getting up, popping off. It's pretty cool to see the bumblebees. Two kinds of snakes in the Himalayas. The only venomous snakes is on your right, the Himalayan pit viper. Again, a snake which is seen mostly in summer. Eastern cliff racers. You have racers back in the US as well. Really quick snake, just like the name says, like a racer. They're also found mostly in the summer. Winters, you hardly have, you just because it's so cold, you don't have cold-blooded animals like the snakes or your rock agamas sometimes are active, but none of the insects are active during the whole winter, except for a few spiders. Now, yes, we've spoken about snow leopard, we've spoken about the wolves. Now, the 6 animals that we see on top. Now we'll go from the left, the woolly hare. Beautiful little hare. It's actually not very little. It's almost as big As a 1-year-old dog, it's that large. It's that large. Uh, the Himalayan marmot looks like a beaver, and the Nubra pika, or the pika, like Pikachu, tiny little rodent, an animal. Now these three are very favorite, feed for something called the Eurasian lynx and the sand fox at the bottom. Now, because of its size and because of the places it stays in, these animals, more than the snow leopard and the wolf, sand fox and the lynx, love to feed on them. We'll come to a lynx a little later. Now, other than the ibex, we have more. We have one antelope, which is called the Tibetan antelope, or they call it the gya. You see it very close towards the Tibetan and the Chinese border from India. One of the world's most trafficked animal for its fur. The Tibetan antelope's fur is sold at almost $5,000 to $10,000 for one shawl, and one little shawl or a little sweater takes about 8 to 10 animals to make it. Uh, yes, it's humans. It's us. We also save them. We also destroy them. But yeah, such a cute animal, very very tiny. It's just about 1.5 feet, 2 feet in height at the back. Beautiful horns. You'll see the L going up. That is what will differentiate it. And why I've put in this photo is, if you look at the back, we call it the heart-shaped bump. So you'll see it from a distance sometimes, even if you don't see the animal clearly, and sometimes when they stand on white snow, they're almost invisible. You'll see this little white bump with the binoculars, and you'll know it's a Tibetan antelope. But otherwise, we have two sheep on either side. The one on the right is called the blue sheep, or the bharal. Bharal is a local term. Or the one on the left is called the Ladakhi urial, which is endemic to only Ladakh in the whole world. This animal is found only here in the whole world, which is also known as red sheep. Now, these two animals are quite commonly fed on by the snow leopards and the wolves. Quite a good number of population of this all around the mountains. Now, wild yak looks way more aggressive, way more built than the yaks that you see anywhere else, like a domesticated yak. You do get to see a few yaks on your tours down here, wild ones, right up in the mountains. You'll have to again watch them through scopes. A Tibetan sandfox. The first time I saw this animal at the bottom was in a documentary narrated by David Attenborough. And when I saw it, I was quite young. This fox looked like, imagine when I was a child and somebody gave me a piece of paper and asked me to draw a fox. This is how I would draw a fox, a box head. So it's the only fox in the world which has a boxish kind of a head, and a master hunter of something like the pika or wolves. They actually jump and catch wolves which burrow under the ground. Now, these are extremely rare to see, the Tibetan sand fox. They're more commonly seen in the northeast of India, towards Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. But in Ladakh, we did find a lot of evidence of this. We've seen it a few times, but again, not the easiest animal to see. A snow leopard is easier. Hang on, now this is lynx, a Eurasian lynx. It's also there all around parts of Siberia and Europe. But Eurasian lynx here, people also call it the Himalayan lynx. Now, the lynx is what really loves to hunt the woody hare and the marmot. A lynx is just, it's as big as a mountain lion, I'd say, but with a stub tail, a very short tail. And the cutest cat of the world. I think it also won an award somewhere, whoever gave awards to these animals, to be the cutest looking animal in the world. It looks like a Persian cat. It's called the Pallas's cat. It lives only in the high plateaus of the Changtang area, hunts mostly wolves, and if there's a pika and it's not too fast. Really fluffy, and these two animals are probably way harder to see than a snow leopard. That's why I've also written top animals are much harder to track than a snow leopard. But these are the kind of animals all around the Himalayas. Now, going down, we have very few threats of the Himalayas. One, of course, is climate change, and I didn't want to write that here, or didn't want to tell you that, because I'm sure we all know how climate change is affecting us. The glaciers are melting, winters are coming, into early summers now are coming into early. Last season we had summers in March. The season before that we had summers coming in only by May. So there is a climate shift which happens, and it's dangerous because the prey species have no food to eat. Now, in the prey species don't have food, there's everything from breeding changes, behavior changes that in turn affect snow leopards, wolves, everything around the belt. So climate change is something which is irreversible. I think the whole world is working on it. It's up to you and me to do more. Now, livestock predation, we spoke about this, and snow leopards or wolves come into the pens and take away the animals. Hunting by feral dogs has become a big problem. Now, sometimes they chase away the snow leopard or the wolf and they start hunting. The ibex is blue sheep, or in this photograph, you will see the kiang or the Tibetan wild ass being hunted by these local dogs. One of the bottommost is something called. So this is it's a photograph taken in China. It's not taken in India. This animal is only found all the way up in Tibet. So we're not going to discuss this. This will mostly come in the Tibet and China. But basically, international conflict. Uh, some places where we've seen we have the army bordering off countries. When you have borders, certain animals they can't really jump across. You're destroying their habitat. And this is a wolf dog cross. A wolf dog cross, we call them a kipshank. It's a very dangerous, it's extremely dangerous because it's a wolf and a feral dog which have mated, and now this is out there in the wild. This only means things like rabies, things like distemper is going to go out and it's going to start wiping out wolf species, foxes, Tibetan sand foxes. And yes, hope all of this is being worked on, but hopefully one day we'll get through all of this. And just to let you go, this is one more image to you, just shot by Surya. And just look at that snow leopard coming out an old abandoned fort. This was just post COVID outside the town of Leh. Imagine the whole town of Leh with an abandoned building. Somebody's seen a snow leopard, everybody's run. A snow leopard comes out of the building. So during COVID, I think was the best time for animals around the world, but it is still great. Please come, watch some snow leopards, watch some amazing trans-Himalayan wildlife with me. And thank you. This was a daily dose of nature for me. Hope you all had fun, and I'm open to questions. Back
Wow,
to you, Brooke.
Falgun, that was amazing. I already told you before we started recording that I need to get on this trip. And so I hope
Oh,
somebody
yes,
listening has already been there and can just, reliving memories with
I hope
you. So yeah.
definitely.
Yes, yeah, we are pretty much close to the hour. So I think I'm going to try to combine a lot of questions together and just ask you one. I'm getting
Yes,
a
please.
lot of questions back and forth about wolves and snow leopards. Could you maybe talk a little bit
Okay.
more about the interaction between the two predators? Is there much conflict?
Oh,
Is there
yes,
not? Do they fight? Those kinds of
there
things.
is.
I think that's great for all of us.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that. Yes, wolves and snow leopards are always in the same ranges. They're always in the same mountains. 90% of the time, snow leopards are bullied by a pack of wolves. So snow leopards, what they do is normally when they have cubs and they have young ones, they make a kill. They try and finish their kill within the day, even if it's as big as an ibex. You know, so what the wolves do is they start coming around. They send two at a time. They send two more at a time, and they start harassing. They start biting the snow leopard, and we've seen this happen so many times. So there's great interaction. That is natural interaction between two predator species, which is absolutely okay. But we get to see this. A big male snow leopard could wipe off about three wolves or four wolves with swipes. But when it's a pack of eight wolves or 10 wolves, the snow leopard is smart enough to know that it's not my fight today. If a snow leopard's injured, it could only mean death for it later, which means it's going to get injured, it's not going to be able to hunt, not eat, moving on. So this is what we've seen, and this is what has been documented, and you'll see it too. They're very close to each other. They stay very close. They share the same habitat. Hope that
Great.
There's some question, somebody's question. Yes.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic. Yeah, like I said, I have lots of questions in here asking about the
Yeah.
wolf snow leopard interaction. So we are past the hour. So Falcon, I will turn it to you for any last closing comments.
Um, yeah, I think I've spoken enough, but I would love it if you make an effort. It's an animal that it should be on your bucket list. It was on my bucket list, but I've seen it so many times and I've not had enough. I want to see this animal more and more. But more than this, it's the whole experience of going into Ladakh. You're going into high altitude. It's cold. If you've seen the movie called Secret Life of Walter Mitty, you're not going to be doing that. We're going to be taking care of you a little more, but you're going to go be out there in the elements. You're going to go come and shoot or see them. Forget shooting with your cameras. Just see a snow leopard, and trust me, you'll feel good inside. It's something that yes, money can buy, but it's a kind of feeling that money can't buy. So I would say snow leopard tours and the photo pro tours from NatHab or from anywhere in the world is probably something that everybody should do once in their life. There's no hurry. You don't have to do it now. You can do it 5 years later, but please do it.
I could not agree more. Thank you so much for taking the time to present to us today, Falgun. And I would love to thank everybody who tuned in. Join us tomorrow for our next daily dose of nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I will conclude the webinar. Goodbye, everybody.